I returned to the hotel I was staying at and instantly booted up my laptop. This is what I had been searching for all this time. Ever since I found that broken flash drive in the Connolly boys' room. This was it. The actual smile dog. I hesitated a moment before inserting the flash drive. What if everything about it was true? What horror would I unleash? But it was as if the flash drive was beckoning me. Like I had no choice in the matter, and I had to insert it. I quickly tucked away all these thoughts. It was absurd to think that an image could have any power over me. I inserted the drive, opened the file, and, without any loading screen, the infamous JPEG appeared. It was exactly as described. An overly saturated dog with grinning human teeth and a figure standing in the back. However, the figure in the background wasn't still, it was blurry, like a person mid-movement, but caught forever. What wasn't properly described was the sensation I felt in the back of my eyes. It felt like something was clawing its way out of my body through my eyeballs. Perhaps it was my soul trying to escape before it was too late. The longer I stared at the image, the more unbearable the sensation became, and I had to look away from it. The second I did, I vomited into the trash can beside me and felt a ringing in my ears, as if a bomb had just been set off near me. The headache I felt in its wake persisted, and I eventually took some ibuprofen and headed off to bed. I'd look into the image in the morning. I've never been the type to remember my dreams. I always treated sleep like a time skip. I'd close my eyes, open them, and then it'd be morning. This sleep, however, couldn't be more different. In my dream, I was laying in the hotel bed, but everything was covered in a burning red hue. I felt sweat drip from my face and I tried to wipe it, but found I couldn't move. I then looked around and noticed that, while yes, I was in my hotel, everything was upside down. Everything that was once on the floor was now on the ceiling, and as I sweated, the sweat drops fell upwards to what used to be the floor. Then it appeared, that stupid, grinning dog. It just sat at the edge of the bed, unmoving and non-verbal. I know now that this sleep only lasted 5 hours, but I swear to God that it felt like an entire 24 hours. 24 hours of me unable to move in the burning heat, forced to stare at this grotesque creature at my feet. I felt myself get thirsty, I felt hungry, but I couldn't do anything about it. I was trapped in my nightmare. Eventually, I jolted awake around 3:33 a.m. I refused to go back to sleep for the rest of the night. I refused to go back to that hell. The following nights were the exact same. The same distorted reality, the same red inferno, and that same devil at the foot of my bed. I tried to chalk it up to the placebo effect. Maybe since I had been told that this image was cursed, I am having nightmares to corroborate that fallacy. But I knew, deep down, that wasn't the case. I started to take an unhealthy amount of caffeine in order to stay awake, but all that did was delay the inevitable. Sleep would always creep up on me and welcome me into its nightmarish embrace. I wanted to tell you, or seek some form of help, but I knew I would be written off as crazy and spend my nights in a padded cell. Hell, I probably am crazy. About 2 weeks into this, the nightmare changed. If I hadn't been having this same dream for weeks, I probably wouldn't have even noticed this change. But it was there. Now, right before I woke up, the dog spoke. Through his low, gravel voice that sounded like someone fighting through bleeding vocal cords, he uttered, "Spread the word." Then I woke up, blood streaming out of my ears as I did. Spread the word? I spent the rest of that day racking my mind through what that could have meant. Did it want me to tell people about it? Share it? That's what Robert's suicide note implied. I needed to look more into it. The days at the office became a blurry haze. My lack of proper sleep made it difficult to stay present, often zoning out while trying to look over work. One of these days, you came in with coffee to check up on me. Here you are, black, just like your soul, you teased while handing me my coffee. Thanks, I forced out of my tired self. I feel like I've seen that phrase on a sign somewhere. Really? You took a sip of your frappuccino. Knew I should have trademarked that. You gave me a concerned look as I nearly missed the desk while setting down my coffee. Hey, have things been alright? Yeah, why do you ask? I knew exactly why you asked. I don't know, you just seem kinda out of it. I'm fine. You sure don't look fine. I said I'm fine, Janice. I yelled out with a ferocity that even shocked myself. You flinched at my words and I quickly calmed down. Sorry, I'm just tired. You should try some melatonin. Helps me loads. No, I could sleep just fine. Just some rough dreams. Okay, Freddy Krueger. You started to sort through the papers on my desk, finding the Smile Dog documents you had presented to me weeks ago. Hey, did Smile Dog ever come to anything? You didn't really keep me posted. I hesitated, shifting in my seat. No. David Terrence never showed, and I honestly didn't care to follow up on it more. That was only a partial lie. I had actually stopped looking into Smile Dog after Michael Terrence stood me up. I thought that if I stopped looking into it, then maybe the night terrors would cease. But they never did. Elijah, you said to me in a monotone voice. What? What? You responded in your usual tone. Didn't you just say my name? No. You rolled your eyes. You really need some sleep, man. I shook it off. Yeah, I guess I do. You know, I was really interested in finding out where that image came from. What do you mean? Didn't it originate from Amelia Terrence? You gave me a disappointed look. Dude! What? Do you ever read my notes? I do. Sometimes. You rolled your eyes and flipped through the documents, gesturing at the notes you had wrote in red pen. Amelia received it via email. Email? How does the same image go from email to floppy disk to flash drive? People must be making copies. I grabbed the documents from you, examining the notes written along the sides. Couldn't we just track down the sender from the email address? Tried that, nothing. The email hadn't been used in anything else and it was just random letters. Damn. I thought you gave up on this case. I looked back at you. I did, but I'd be lying if I said I wasn't curious. In actuality, I believe that if I could track down the original sender, I could find out the origin of this image and finally put this nightmare to rest. Unfortunately, this seemed to be another dead end. And it seemed like I'd have to endure this nightmare even longer. Janice eventually left, leaving me to dig deeper into this ever-growing mystery on my own. I continued researching and taking notes long past the midnight hours. I must have fallen asleep in my chair since, when I rested my head, I awoke in the landscape that I could only walk in my dream. Everything was the same it had been the last couple nights, except in my office instead of in my bed. The dream had ended the same way it had the previous nights, with the grinning devil telling me to spread the word. I still didn't quite understand what that meant. However, there was something about the way it said it that made me feel like I wasn't meant to understand. I was just meant to obey. I woke up to you entering the office. Damn, have you been here all night? You asked, while setting down your things. I rubbed my eyes and noticed the sweat covering my shirt. Yeah. Rough night? Yeah. Why are you here today? You looked at me confused. We had the McGacey case? Are you good? Shit, I forgot. Remind me how you are my boss. Sorry, I just got wrapped up in this smile dog stuff. You came over to check the notes I had written on my pink sticky notes, in case you gave up on. I didn't give up, you cut me off while examining my notes. What the fuck is this about? What? This is why I do most of the note taking? You held up one of the sticky notes. I looked at it and, to my horror, it was colored in with the words, "Spread the word." In a panic, I checked all of my sticky notes. Each one was the same. The words, "Spread the word," written over and over again, covering my keyboard. What the fuck? I whispered to myself. I could have sworn that I was taking notes all night. You didn't move at first. You just stared at the sticky note, jaws slightly parted. Then, your eyes shifted. Not curious, but cold. You turned to face me and uttered the words, "You are absolutely worthless," in that same monotone voice I heard the day before. What? You continued. Look at all the great work you've done. Absolutely pointless. I began to feel a weight on my chest as the room began to stretch around the both of us. You just kept talking. It's all your fault. Janice, what are you talking about? You killed him. I felt my breath catch in my throat. Janice, stop it. He's dead because of you. Stop it. You don't know what you're talking about. He cried and you did nothing. Stop it. You're just a fucking pussy. Stop it. I felt my blood boil to an unimaginable temperature while the room continued to stretch and warp. I felt the burning red haze return from my nightmares. Johnny is I slapped you across the face before you could finish those last words. Everything went back to normal as you held the side of your cheek. Your regular tone returned, now with a sense of both anger and fear behind it. What the fuck is wrong with you? I realized what I had done, and I tried to apologize, but it was too late. Jan, don't fucking talk to me! You grabbed your things and began to head out the door. I don't know what the fuck this is, but get it together. Whether that means some meds or a therapist, I don't care. Just get some help. And then you were gone, slamming the door behind you. I punched my desk the second you walked out, quickly regretting it as my hand began to sting. But then, something caught my eyes. You and my laptop, etched out into the end of the wooden desk, read, BrookBend, Indiana. Had I etched this into my desk in my trance the night before? I still don't know. But I wasn't going to waste time over spilled milk. I knew you'd come around eventually. All I needed to do was give you time. Right then, I needed to focus on Smile Dog. I needed to end this. Grasping onto the last straw I had, I looked up BrookBend, Indiana. It was near impossible to find anything on this town. Google first thought that it was a typo and that I was asking about South Bend, but after flipping through a couple pages of Google, I found it. BrookBend, Indiana, home of the paper straw, population 365. I first tried words like smile dog or cursed image, but of course, came up empty-handed. Then I realized there was an old mental institution on the edge of this town. Anyone shouting about an evil dog could end up there. There weren't many people within the institution, so cross-referencing the names against town newspapers wasn't that much of a struggle. Sure enough, there he was, Michael Lutz, a man who has been there since 2000, screaming about an evil dog. He was still alive. There was still hope. After a ton of fiddling with GPS and getting directions from people living in southern Indiana, I finally located BrookBend. The second I crossed into the town, it felt like a gray haze had fallen over me. A haze that seemed to surround BrookBend, trapping it in a bubble away from the rest of the world. Cornfields and forests surrounded the area and isolated all the noise that could be made from nearby towns and villages. In fact, the whole town was quiet. Hardly anyone walked the streets, shops weren't especially active, and playgrounds were completely devoid of children. The only noise I could make out was the sound of grinding from an old mill. It wasn't necessarily a ghost town, but rather the ghost of a town. Like this town had once held so much life, which was clear from the pond, beautiful houses, and many playgrounds, but was now reduced to a husk of its normal self. The McMurphy Mental Institution was in an even worse shape than the rest of BrookBend. It was covered in graffitied dicks and other obscene imagery, the kind of things you'd expect bored teens to do in a place like this. Old advertisements lined the walls along with a missing poster for Jane Richardson. The poster had to have been a couple years old. Hopefully they found her. The once white walls now yellowed like tea-stained paper, faintly crinkled, sun-kissed, and soaked in the ghost of tannins. Inside was exactly what one would suspect. The lights were low-powered, with some completely burned out. Dust covered every inch, and I swear there was mold in some corners. The smells of medicine, urine, and rubber plagued the air, giving me the ever-growing urge to vomit. I almost thought it was completely abandoned, till I saw some staff come to help me at the front desk. There were very few residents in this facility, and the staff didn't seem to be entirely coherent. They didn't even question me when I was asking for information on Michael Lutz. Maybe my stubble and tired eyes gave off the impression of a police officer. Maybe they really didn't care. Interestingly enough, Lutz had actually put himself in here and was paying for the cost of his stay. They said he had gotten better over time but still refused to leave the facility. He has been here for so long, in fact, that he is actually more experienced in how the place operates compared to the majority of the staff. When I asked if I could talk to him about a case, they had no problem with it, something I would usually have to fight tooth and nail for in any other mental health facility. They brought me into a white room with a guard in the corner, patted me down, then asked me to take a seat. In the center was a table that had baby protectors on each corner. After a 20-minute wait, an older faculty member dressed in all white came in. She reeked of stale perfume and breath mints and held her thin white hair in a bun. She held up a clipboard with her wrinkled, sallow hands and began to speak in a hoarse voice. "My staff tells me you're an officer, correct?" She adjusted her glasses, eyes never leaving the clipboard. "I am a detective," I responded, avoiding the question. She let out a wet cough, then continued. "You're not one of ours." "I'm from Orlando." "That's quite the way out. Did you drive?" "I flew. I'm currently working on a case, and I believe Mr. Lutz has much needed information on it." "Why is that?" "Well, the victims..." She cut me off. "Victims?" She began to write on her clipboard. I shifted in the cold metal chair. Yes, there were numerous suicides, and all of them seemed to be tied to the same delusions. She raised her eyebrows, still staring at the clipboard. "What delusions?" I sharply replied, "Smile, dog." She looked up from her clipboard and stared straight into my eyes. The room fell still, with the only sound being a creaking AC. Finally, she looked back to her clipboard and broke the silence. "I cannot let you see him." "What? Why not?" I sounded desperate. Too desperate.
"Mr. Lutz has been doing much better these last couple years, and I won't hinder his progress from bringing back his past illusions."
"It'll be quick. 5 minutes max."
"No can do."
"Please." At every turn, this case has just brought me dead end to dead end. I just need closure. And I think Michael Lutz has that closure.
"Your pleas do not change what I said earlier. I have to prioritize my patient's health."
She sharply responded, beginning to stand up. I sighed, accepting defeat, when she suddenly received a phone call. She picked it up, didn't say a word, faced me, put down the phone, then faced the guard and said,
"Let him in."
The guard nodded his head and opened the door. On the other side was Michael Lutz, being guided forward with another guard behind him. I don't know what I expected. I never saw his picture anywhere online, and I assumed that anyone like him would be gray, twitching, hunched over, and covered in hair. In actuality, Lutz just looked like any other Joe Schmo you'd see at your local coffee shop. Young, brown, well-kept hair, clean-shaven, and wearing the smile someone like a salesman might give you. He sat down across from me and reached out his hand. "Michael Lutz." I took his hand and shook it. "Elijah Lee." He shifted in his seat. So I have a couple of questions about an event that happened to you in 2000.
"Oh."
His smile faltered and he started to avoid my gaze. It's alright, you're not in any trouble. I know that, Why are you bringing this up now? Because I believe that what happened to you is happening to others all over the country. Of course it is. That's what I said. But nobody believed me. He met my gaze once more. Why do you think I can help? Because you're the first person to mention Smile Dog. He sharply cut me off. Stop! Don't even say his name. You're the first victim. So? Why does that matter? I can't stop it. You can't stop it. I just need you to tell me everything that happened to you. No. Michael, I said no. He began to turn around, maybe to beckon a guard to take him out. Michael, I am not asking. People will die if you don't help me out here. He turned back towards me as I continued. Please, just tell me what happened in 2000. Michael looked down at his feet and began. It didn't start in 2000. It started in 1999, a whole year before. Do you know what it's like, having to live with a demon in your head for a whole year? He looked back up. A whole year of something in your ear, telling you that you are worthless and alone. A whole year of nightmares and sleepless nights. Yes, I could. He continued. I was 17 and living with my mom. My dad had just passed away a year before, and I was going through his things in the basement. My dad was a huge comic collector, so I was hoping to find some old Superman comics to add to my own collection. I was moving boxes around when I noticed a piece of paper sticking out of the bricks in the wall. I pulled on it and it wouldn't budge. It was like it was encased inside the building. I finally gave up and went back to searching through boxes. When I was getting ready to leave the basement, the paper suddenly popped out and landed face down on the ground. It just popped out? Yeah, like someone had pulled on it or something, but I swear that I was the only one down there. I picked up the paper and there it was. A photo of some smiling dog. It gave me the creeps, so I left it down there. But it kept coming back, in my dreams and in my ears and in my mind, and eventually it was all I could see. This demon in every corner, every blink. It would tell me things like my dad was ashamed of me or that it was my fault he died. It was there when I slept and it was there when I awake. I couldn't escape. His breath started to get heavier, and he started rocking back and forth in his chair. Stay with me, Michael. How did you get rid of him? No one believed me. No one believed me. No one believed me. Michael! No one believed me. Not even my mom. She thought I was crazy. Everyone did. Even I did. After a year, I had no one besides that dog. So I finally started to listen to it. It told me to spread the word, so I did. I took the photo from the basement to a flatbed scanner and made it digital. I then found this random girl online who I could email it to. Once I did, it left me alone. But I knew it couldn't be that easy. So I locked myself in here. Away from the outside world, away from it. So you just shared the image? The room warped and twisted around us as Michael's face turned blank. He began shouting, "Spread the word, spread 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 the word." Soon the two guards joined in.
Spread the word, 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 spread the word.
Then I could hear it in my head as well. I needed it to stop. The room continued to twist as the weight on my chest pushed harder and harder and harder until I finally yelled, "Shut up!" Everything went back to normal, and Michael looked at me confused. I didn't say anything. Are you okay? Then a moment of realization appeared across his face. He's got you. You brought him here, you motherfucker. He jumped over the table, tackled me to the ground, and gripped his hands around my throat while letting out a war cry. You won't take me again. You won't. The guards finally came and grabbed him off me, kicking and screaming. They dragged him out of the room. I sat there on the floor for a few minutes before the guards came back and kicked me out of the building as well. Michael confirmed my earlier suspicions. In order to get rid of the nightmares, I had to share the photo with someone else. But who? Someone random? Someone I hated? Could I really put another life through this? My thoughts were interrupted when, suddenly, as I blinked, I could see Smile Dog in the darkness of my eyelid. He was there at every blink now. I spent the rest of that night in my car, pondering over my options. Would I be willing to become a monster in order to avoid being a victim? I couldn't answer that question at this time. No, I believed that there had to be a way to end it, that I could save myself and any future victims. I just needed to figure out some sort of loophole or weakness in this curse. It became increasingly hard to organize my thoughts when every time I closed my eyes, Smile Dog would appear, no matter how brief. I don't know how, but sleep eventually took me, and I was now in the nightmare I had grown such familiarity with. But it was different now. Now it took place in my car, and Smile Dog wasn't there. I thought that I had possibly been cured. Then I heard my name. I turned my head and I realized I could move. However, I still wasn't in full control of my body. It was like I was in a trance, forced to follow where that voice led me. Elijah. I stepped out of my car and into the red haze. Ashes fell from the sky as I continued to follow the voice deep into the woods. Leaves crunched beneath my feet as an inferno beat down on my head. Finally, there it was. Smile Dog. Standing over a dead body. Standing over the bloodied body of Johnny Lee, my brother. All of a sudden, I was 10 again, crouched beside my brother's body. We just wanted to play cowboys. We didn't know the gun was loaded. I cried out towards Smile Dog. My voice was now that of my 10-year-old self as tears ran down my cheeks. Smile Dog responded in the voice of my father. You fucking disgrace. You killed my son. My son. I'm sorry, Dad. I didn't know. Smile Dog didn't move, but I felt an invisible force push me off my brother's body. Get off him, my father yelled as his voice cracked. My boy. My sweet boy. I was now suddenly 12, back in my childhood room, hiding in the closet from my father after he got home from the bar. Where the fuck are you, boy? He screamed from the bottom of the stairs. All I could do was cry as he stomped up the stairs and towards my room. He threw open my closet door and I screamed. He smiled. There you are. He grabbed me by the ear and led me down to the kitchen. He slurred, What is all this mess? The table was bare. I don't see anything, I cried out. So you're calling me a liar? I mumbled. No. What? I spoke up through my cracked voice. No, sir. So what is it, boy? I stuttered. Speak up! He backhanded me across the face, causing me to fall to the floor. When I got up, I was 17. Sitting on my bed, holding my father's gun to my head. I couldn't take it anymore. I just wanted it to end. I prepared to pull the trigger, but I was too much of a pussy. I couldn't do it. I looked down, my father's words ringing in my head. When I looked up, I was 31. I was talking to someone about the room we were standing in. I was gonna rent it from them. So yeah, the room is kinda shit, which is why I wonder what you're gonna do with this? The man asked. Oh, I don't need much. I'm just trying to do some private investigating work. Just need a base of operations, I guess. Well, can't say this is the best base, but go wild. Just not too wild. I still own it, and we'll have you pay for any damages, even if you're trying to save the world. But I wasn't trying to save the world. I was trying to save my soul. I guess I figured that being a PI would help me make up for my past. That if I just helped enough people, I wouldn't be this mess that my dad was ashamed of. But that didn't matter. He would always be ashamed of me. I would always be ashamed of me. I sat down at my desk, and my first client walked in. It was Smile Dog. He just uttered,
Spread the word.
Then I woke up back in my car. Per usual, the dream had only lasted 5 hours. I couldn't keep doing this. I had to end this curse. I flipped through pages of the file you had collected on Smile Dog. I looked back at the document on Amelia Terrence. Her father had been the one to infect me with this curse. Maybe he could reverse it somehow. I didn't know. I just needed some hope. Something that didn't involve me dooming someone else. I looked at the notes you had written on the side of the document. There was Amelia's old address, I hoped her father still lived there. I took off towards the address in my car, driving the whole 14 hours and only stopping for gas. When I arrived at the Terrence residence, I was glad to see a car in the driveway. At least someone lived there. Hopefully it was her father. It was a small, one-story house with only enough room to fit 2 people. Perfect for a close father and daughter. I knocked on the door, no answer. I knocked again, no answer. I didn't even knock a 3rd time. I was too desperate. Not caring about who saw me, I broke down the door. The second I entered, all I could smell was rotting meat. I followed the smell, looking around the house as I did. Every light was off despite the switches being flipped upwards, and the only light source was the sun outside. The smoke alarm beeped every once in a while in need of new batteries. The rot only got stronger as I entered a bedroom. In the corner of the room was her father, David Terrence, hanging by a noose. Beneath him, hidden in the shadow of his body, was Smile Dog, its smile piercing through the darkness. I just stood there, staring at the body in front of me. How? How did this happen? He spread the word. He gave me the photo. I felt sick and vomited into his toilet. I then went to the sink to wash out my mouth and splash my face. When I finished, I looked into the mirror and, written with steam, not like a finger writing letters on a steam mirror, but as if the steam had a mind of its own and wrote the words. The steam read, "Smile, God's watching." I immediately began searching the room for any kind of answer to how he ended up dead. Finally, I found his journal. Most of the pages were gibberish or was just the saying, "Spread the word," over and over again. However, every now and then was something useful. The following is all I could gather. His daughter would tell him about this cursed photo of a dog. David, of course, dismissed her and told her that she just needed to stop watching scary movies. She kept on persisting on the existence of Smile Dog and that she had received it in an email by an unknown sender. Instead of getting her help, David just chalked it up to her wanting attention. After his daughter's death, David had read her suicide note and finally believed his daughter. Over the years, he had developed an unhealthy obsession with finding this cursed image, but all he could go off of was the name Smile Dog. However, by some grace of God, or a curse of Satan, a flash drive titled smile.jpg had wound up on his doorstep. He looked at the image and had been cursed. He thought he could face it and avenge his daughter or something, but that didn't work. He even tried to keep the flash drive and stop the curse at him, but that didn't work either. He wasn't strong enough and finally gave in, giving me, a detective interested in the case, the drive. But that didn't end it. Smile Dog still haunted him and repeatedly told him to spread the word. He didn't know what to do and finally killed himself. I still didn't understand. He shared the image. He gave me the flash drive. Shouldn't that mean that he was saved? But then it hit me. Smile Dog never told anyone to share it. It said to spread the word. Over the years, it has gone from a physical image to an email to a floppy disk and now to a flash drive. It wasn't just shared, it was copied over and over again. Numerous versions of the same image exist now. David didn't make another flash drive, he gave me the same one. You see, Smile Dog doesn't just want to be seen. He wants to be impossible to miss. It can't die because it keeps duplicating. Hundreds of it exist out there on the internet. Hundreds of victims. I am completely alone now. You left me. All trails have gone cold. All I have left is Smile Dog. I think that's what it also wanted. All those deleted replies on Richard Markson's Reddit post weren't just some glitch. It was Smile Dog, making sure that he felt completely isolated. I hoped I could be the one to end it, but it's too late for me. I see it in every corner now. It's staring at me as I type this out. I can't keep going. I only have 2 options now. I can either kill myself or spread it. No matter how much pain I'm in, I can't bring myself to pull the trigger. Just like when I was 17. so that leaves one option for me. I debated posting it on a random forum or giving it to a stranger, but I couldn't do it. I can't just continue the curse. That's when I thought of you, Janice. You're much stronger than me. Maybe you could end it. Or maybe you'll just spread the word. If it comes down to it, please just spread the word. I can't have another death on my hands. I've given you plenty of warnings, added so much fluff, all in hopes that maybe you'd stop reading. But I know you. I know you are still reading these final lines. I know that, despite all warnings, you'll still click on the image. I think there's something about the image, some form of power it has that makes people want to see it. But I also know that's just who you are. So here it is. I'm truly sorry.